Hi, my name is Bilkis and you're welcome to another new lesson. Today we will be making a basic dress with a waist dart. What are the measurements we need for this? It is just your normal measurement you need for your top, your horizontal measurement for your bust, your waist, your hip, and then where you want the top to stop. Like now your top, usually maybe you do 26, 27, but for my dress I want it to be 43. So that is all you need. So now I will show you on the table how to fold your fabric. So I will be using this fabric and this lining. So I already cut some, but I will still explain. So for instance, this is my fabric. This is the length. This is the length and this is the width. The width is endless. So I want the length of my dress to be 43. So and the width, the length is by 45. So that means it can still accommodate my dress length and also the same allowance. But in case you want a longer one, let's say you want a length of 50, that means you will be cutting your fabric along the width. But because I want 43, I will be cutting along the length. But if you want yours to be longer, like let's say we want 50, which this length here will not accommodate. So that means you will cut your fabric along the width. And how will you know how to fold your fabric like this? All you have to do is to take the widest part of your body circumference, and mine is my hip, divide it by 4 and then add 2 or 3 inches to it and then cut it. I already cut out the fabric. Can you see that? So this is the place that will accommodate my horizontal measurement, and this is for my vertical measurement. So I will be cutting it together. Why? Because we are taking in half an inch dart for the front on both sides and also half an inch dart for our waist dart also at the back. So I will be cutting it together. But first you can start your measurement, drawing your pattern with the front fabric. Better still, you can cut it together. So I will start now. I will draw a straight line which will be the base for my measurements, which is here. Then the next thing is half of my armhole, which is 8.5. Then the next thing, the bust point, which is 10.5. Then my waist. You should be taking your own measurements. Then my hip, which is here. Then after your hip, it will be the length of the top. But I will make this into a straight line first. So this is so I've extended the chest line. Then I will go to the bust point line and also extend. Then the waist. And then the hip. Then I can move the fabric upward to locate where my dress will stop. So remember, this is my hip line, so which is 24. So I'll just continue from there. Can you see that? Then I will place it here. I want it to be 43, or I could just do 44. Let me just do 44 inches, and then this will be for the hemming allowance. And I'll make this also into a straight line. So this is where my top will stop. So I'll move it over to the beginning so we can start drafting. Then I will start with the 3 8-inch standard. It's 3 inches and then 8 inches here. Then for the front, because we are cutting the front and the back together. So first I will locate the back. So this is the back and this is the front. So the back is half an inch and the front is 1 inch. Then I will use my ruler to join it all. This is for the back. Can you see that? And then this is for the front. After doing that, I can insert my shoulder measurement. That is half of your shoulder. Mine is 8.5 and it's here. Then I will mark it on my chest line too. And then go with a straight line. Then for my bust measurement, my quarter of my bust is 10.5 inches. So you can add his. At times I add his, at times I ignore. So just make sure you take your accurate measurements. So this is where my bust measurement is, and then I will take the midpoint from the back slope. So this is 8, half of 8 is 4 inch, which is here. Then I will come in 3/4 inch. You should be used to that by now. This is for the front armhole. And then I will start connecting. So from the edge, this is for the front armhole, so it will be from the edge of the slope for the front armhole, and I will connect. Can you see that? And then place it here to join to the chest line. And then my front armhole is formed, and for the back armhole, just place it to connect from this midpoint to the chest line. And we are done with that. So now we will insert our horizontal measurement. We have done that of the bust. Then I will go to my waist. This is my bust point line, so I will go to my waist. Quarter of my waist is 9. That is my waist divided by 4. Then if you want it to be a little bit free, you could add half an inch east to it, or even 1 inch, depending on how free you want it to be. But I like mine to be so fitted, so I will use 9. But if you want yours to still be free, just add half an inch east to it, or even 1/4 inch or 1 inch, depending on what you want. So which will be here. Then we'll go to our hip. Quarter of my hip is 11, which is here. So after doing that, the next thing is to take my dart. I would have connected it, but because we will take this dart here and I want to explain, so now we will go over to make the dart. So we need a bust span measurement here, that is the distance from one nipple to the other. Mine is 4.5. So I will start inserting that from my bust point, because we need it from the bust point down to the hip area. So I'll just mark it here, and then mark it here also, and then the hip line here. Then I will connect in a straight line. So for the dart now, because we are working on a dress with a waist dart, so all the dart we are taking is only on the waist, and we will be doing ½ inch on both sides. So then ½ inch here, which is here. After doing that, remember I always tell you to come down 1 inch from the bust point line. Then we can connect. And for a waist dart, from the hip, you need to come up by 2 inches. You should know this because I explained in detail in our beginners class. So you know from the bust point you come down by 1 inch, and from your hip you come up by 2 inches, which is here. Then I will connect with my ruler. So this is what we will be sewing in when we are sewing to give our dress the fitted shape. So this is what we will be sewing in to give it the waist that shape. And after doing that, then we can go back to our neckline. But before that, I will now explain why I did not connect in the first place. So we will go over our horizontal measurement again. My bust, quarter of my bust is 10.5, in which I already marked. Then for my waist, quarter of my waist is 9 inches. But remember, we are taking in that here. So I took in half an inch here, half an inch here, which is 1 inch. So we need to replace it back here. So by the time we take in our that, it will still be the 9 inch we are having there. So I would add extra 1 inch to this 9 to make it 10 inches because of the that, which is here. Then we can connect it. So with your ruler, can you see what we've done? And then with my hip curve, I will just connect. Can you see we are done with our measurement? But remember, we have not added our seam allowance because we need to join this front fabric to the back fabric, and you will need some allowance to do that. You can do half an inch, 3/4 or 1, but 1 is like a standard. So now we would add that to it. So this is 1 inch. You go over to the waist again, add 1 inch. This is for sewing the front and back together. Then I will join this way. So the reason why I did it this way is because when you are sewing, it will be easier for you. So by the time you are joining it together, so you will know you will be sewing on this line. Having done that, before going to the lower part, let's just fix our neckline. For the back, the standard is 1 inch. You just come down by 1 inch from the base where we started. But you can't have a different neckline. It's not compulsory. You could always manipulate your garment. So you could do 4, you could do 5, you could do 3. However, if you want the neck to be deeper at the back, and do a high neck for the front, depending on you. But I will just do 1 inch for the back, which is here. And for the front, I would do, or let me explain the back first so I will not confuse you. So this is 1 inch from the back, and then for the width of my neck, I will do 4.5 inches. I could do 4 or 4.5. So from here to here is the 3 inch standard. So the remaining 1 inch for 4 inches or 4.5 will be here. So I could just decide to do 4.5. So the remaining 1.5 inch will be along the back slope. So from here, 1.5 is here. Can you see that? So this is where it is. And then I will use my armhole to curve it out. So this is the back neck. And then for the front neck, I will do 4.5 also. So 4.5 is here. You could do as you like. You could do 5, 6, 7, depending on what you want. But I will do 4.5. And then the width remains the same. So you could have any type of neckline you want. You could have a round neck, a U neck, but I will just do a V neck. So you also use your armhole to do that. Can you see that? So this is where it will start. This is my front slope, connecting it to this part. And this is my V neck. Can you see that? That is formed. Then we can go to the lower part of my dress. So this is where I want my dress to stop. If you just want a straight dress, if you don't want it to be too shapeful or whatever, all you have to do is to just put the same measurement on your hip, on your dress length. But I would just want it to be a little bit tapered. And if you want a pencil dress, so you will take like 1.5 or 2 inches away from the measurement of your hip and insert it here. But I will just do 1 inch minus my quarter hip measurement because I don't want it to be too tapered. So here I did 11 inches. So now I will go over here. This is the 11 inches, but because I want it to be a little bit tapered, I will just come off by 1 inch, which will make it 10 inches. And that stops here. And the beauty of these dresses, you could even, instead of making it a straight dress, you could add gathers to it, you could add peplum to it, anyhow you want it. But I will just do a straight dress. So if you are someone that you are very hippie, you just use your hip curve to join this part to this part. But I am not a hippie person, so I will just use my ruler to just connect it in a straight line. This way. Can you see that? Then the 1 inch seam allowance. Do not forget that here. And then I will join again. If you want a longer version, you can use your T-square to connect. So can you see our dress is formed? I'll just use my hip curve to make a little curve. So here looking at it, you can see our dress is formed. And that is just it on that. And don't forget to add your 1/2 inch seam allowance to your shoulder. So how do you do that? Because we have 2 slopes here, one for the back and one for the front. All I will just do is start with the back first. So this is the back slope. I will add to that because we will be cutting out the back pattern first before cutting the front. So I will add 1/2 inch, which is here. And then I will come here also. 1/2 inch stops here. Then with my ruler, I will join that. So this is my shoulder measurement. Remember, we placed the 2 fabrics together. And now, since we have finished drafting our dress, we need to cut it out. But there will be a zipper at the back. That is why I told you when adding some inches to the quarter of your largest circumference, which is my hip, you should add like 2 or 3 inches, because the back we need 1 inch seam allowance for the zipper. So all you have to do is to lift this front fabric and then measure 1 inch all down from the edge of the fabric. 1 inch all down. You measure 1 inch all down and then connect in a straight line. Because this is where our zipper will sit. So now our zip allowance is intact. Then I will now place my fabric back again, starting from that 1 inch. Can you see this is where the 1 inch seam allowance is? So you place it this way. So the back will be 1 inch more than the front fabric. Then after doing this, we can cut out. And please always pin your fabric together. And another thing, because my fabric will need a lining, I will be lining my dress. So to make it easier for you, instead of first cutting out this the back pattern before cutting out the lining, what I do is just cut everything together. And in most cases, I don't like my lining to be the same length with my dress. I want it to be some inches higher. So I will be using this length. So all I'll do is to fold in a way that it will accommodate my fabric after cutting it out. So I will measure it to give me like 15. So it's okay for me. And then I will place this fabric on this to cut it out. I haven't placed my lining. This is my lining. Can you see it? Underneath. It should be at the same level with the back fabric because we are cutting the back first. So having done that, I will just move all the fabric upward and start cutting from below. Make sure you pin all your fabrics together, please. So when you get here, remember you have your lining underneath it, so you should take that into consideration. Then I will go over to check. Okay, I'm cutting with my lining. Here should be in a curvy manner. And also here, it shouldn't be sharp. Then I will move my fabric downward. Note, when cutting, you should cut the back armhole first, because we are cutting the back pattern first. Then I will continue cutting. Do not forget the shoulder seam allowance. And remember, we will cut the back neck first. Do not make that mistake. The back neck first. So I'm cutting through the seam allowance. Do not forget that. Okay. I will remove the front pattern now. So this is the back. Then this back, I will explain some things. But first, let me finish with the front panel. Lest I forget, for your work to be more professional, all you have to do is to, while the front pattern is still on the back pattern, just lift it up at the hip line here and then just fold it a little and notch. This will help you when sewing, that all these notches must match. Then we go over to the waist. I will lift it up again and notch. Then this remains the same. So by the time you are sewing, it should show. And then for the back, to make it easier for you, when I'm making the explanation, I will just note the chest line, the waist, and the hip, because we don't need the bust point line at the back. So this is the chest line. I'm marking it on the back fabric. Then this is the waistline, and this is the hip line. Can you see that? Because of the explanation I want to make. But with these notches, I will know where they are. So now I will remove my front pattern. So to finish it up, remember we took out the back pattern from the fabric. So we are still left with the front neck and the front armhole. So now we have to finish it up. Remember we had the seam allowance to the back shoulder here. So now what you will just do is that this is our front slope. Just take your measuring tape. From this front slope, just measure half an inch, which is here. Can you see that? Then go here and measure half an inch, which is here. Then I will connect with my ruler. It's so easy like that. So this is what I will be cutting off. So the front seam allowance has been added. Then I will cut off the neck. Then also for the lining for the front, you should place it on it when cutting. But first, let me just finish up the neckline. So I've removed that. Then I will remove the front armhole. Can you see it was easy that we cut everything together? All you have to do is to just trim off the neck and the armhole. So we finish with the front fabric. Remember, just place it on your lining the same way we did for the back and then cut it off. So let's go to the back to make the explanation. So what I'll do now is to just extend this line. remember, this is the mark I kept on the back fabric. So it's here. So this is my chest line. Then I'll go to the waist. So this notch will help me with the waist. And then for the hip, here, and you see that was easy. So the same way we inserted our bust pan, we do the same to the back. After the 1 inch seam allowance for the zipper, please. Then I will start from my chest line. So 1 inch here, 4.5 inches, sorry. From the, after the 1 inch seam allowance, do not forget that. So this is 4.5. 4.5, that is half of your half of the distance from one nipple to another, called bust pan. So this is my hip. Then I will draw a straight line. Then I will take 1/2 inch on both sides, just the same way we did to the front. Can you see that? Then from the back, I always advise to come down by 1/2 inch, 3/4 or 1 inch. Then from the hip is a standard, you come up by 1 inch. Remember, for the front we came up by 2 inches, but for the back you will come up by 1 inch. I explain all this in detail in the beginners class. And if you've gone through the beginners class, you should be familiar with all this. Now I'm connecting my darts. When making yours, take your time. From the 1 inch in which we came up, and you see the back dart is formed. So this is what we will be taking in for the back also. Then there are sometimes some people have problems. So you encounter some problems. You might have gone through that before, that you, after sewing your dress or top, you find out that the back bulges. It's always of two problems. One is either you did not go in 1/2 inch on the waistline, or your vertical measurement, that is the nape of your neck to your waist, the measurement was not properly taken. If that two things happen, it could give you a bulgy zipper at the back. So now I will go over to the fabric to explain again. So now this is the waistline. So all you have to do is go in 1/2 inch here. This is the waistline. So 1/2 inch is here on the waist. Can you see that? Then I will take my ruler, because we actually want to take it in here. But since we have already added our seam allowance to it for the zipper, so it is better you take it in here and then you redraw it in here. So I will take this ruler, and from this 1/2 inch point, I will connect to the edge of the seam allowance that we left for the zipper. So by doing this, it will be more fitted at the back and you won't have a bulgy dress. Then from here also, this is my hip. I will then connect this to the edge of my hip. So I will be cutting this off. So remember, this that we have taken, we need to add it back here, because we've taken out of the zipper allowance. So we have to redraw the zip allowance now. Or better still, if you don't want to do that, just remember, when you are taking your zipper allowance, you should go in by 1 inch all through. But let me just show you to understand the explanation more. So I will go in from the line we drew, 1/2 inch. So when you now measure from this 1/2 inch we came in by, from here, can you see it is 1 inch. So this is our new zipper allowance. Can you see that? So this will be cut off. I'll now take my ruler and connect to the edge of this 1 inch seam allowance. You see that? Then this will go to the edge of the 1 inch seam allowance here. So we will cut this off, and this will be a new zip allowance. So remember to adjust your lining and your fabric if you did not pin like mine. So it's still intact. Then remember, we have to cut through our zipper because we have two parts. But since we are cutting this off, instead of just cutting first before taking that, I'll just take it together like that. Can you see the way I went? So we have taken this ½ inch off. You can see this place goes in at the waist. Then I can open up the rest. I will just open this up. First the fabric. And then the lining. So this is where my lining stops. So I will open it up for you to see. This is the lining. Can you see the lining? So this is one side. And this is another side. So the zipper allowance will be here. And you see the shape of our dress is formed. So now let me show you so this is the back pattern for our dress. So this is the zipper allowance. So we will be putting a zipper here. Can you see that? And the vent will be here. So that is all on the dress. So I will show you then this for the dart. This is what we will be taking in for the dart. So if you know you are still not perfect, I will advise you to draft everything the same way on the other panel, so it won't give you any problem when you are sewing. Then I will show you the front. This is the front of my dress. Can you see that? So this is it. Better still, you could just fold over to tap in your chalk, or take your time to draft the same way here. So the next thing now for us is to sew our fabrics together.